I've been here a few days, but I don't
Okay.
know if I have, 2 hours. That's a long time.
Well, we don't have to go 2 hours.
Okay, we're good.
No, when the questions stop, we're done. Oh, I better be quiet. Are we live?
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everybody. On behalf of Women's Council of NAREB Memphis chapter, we're so excited that you joined us tonight. If you're just joining in on Facebook, like and share, like and share. I'm going to give you all a minute to like and share. We have an awesome lender in Memphis that's going to give you all some important information, necessary information for you all to make the decision or the choice to find out if renting is best for you right now or if purchasing is good for you right now. So we hope you all enjoy the information. We want you to just relax. This is just conversation. She's going to give you the information. You'll be able to ask questions. We have a lot of realtors on the line, and if you have some questions to ask us, you can do that as well. So if you are a realtor, you may want to drop your information in the chat in case there is somebody listening that wants to contact you all. So again, thank you so much. And our moderator tonight will be Madam First VP, Shanita Johnson. She will be moderating. And our guest again is Ms. Ruth Phillips with Cadence Bank. And she's a veteran in the industry for 30 plus years. I've utilized her services, and I can attest to the fact that she knows her stuff. So if you need some questions answered about anything real estate related and lending, you got the right one tonight. So thank you again, everybody, for joining. And I'm going to turn this over to our moderator, Madam VP, First VP, Ms. Shanita Johnson. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you very much. Again, welcome everyone to renting versus buying. We know that this is a question that many people have because some people think that just because the interest rates are high, it's better to rent. But we are going to answer all of the questions. Well, we're not going to. Our veteran lender, Ruth Phillips with Cadence Bank, is going to answer all of our questions. So, just to get started, can you just give us a little background about yourself, Ruth, and Cadence Bank?
Okay, I am Ruth Phillips. I am a native Arkansan, but I've been in Memphis, Tennessee, living since 2000. So I think I'm a Memphian now. Married, 2 children, 5 grandkids, and been in the mortgage business for about 35 years. I enjoy it. It's more passion. Been at Cadence for the last 9 years, and I'll probably be here until I retire. So I really love what I do. So that's about all I want to say about me.
All right, thank you so much. Well, we will get right into the questions. So, when it comes to whether or not someone wants to making the decision, trying to decide whether they should continue renting or if they should pursue the path to home ownership. What are some of the first things that they need to look at when making that decision?
First, I recommend that you look at yourself. You need to decide, am I ready for home ownership? Because with home ownership, it comes responsibility. Am I ready to be stable? Am I ready to really live budget wise? Am I really ready for this type of commitment? It's a 30-year commitment. Unlike renting, it's, sometimes it could be month to month. It could be a 6-month lease, could be a year lease. When you decide to purchase, you're making a commitment to repay a debt monthly and to take care of a property that is going to build you wealth every time you make a payment. Because every time you make a payment on a house, you're going to be reducing the loan amount. So in that turn, you're going to be, over time, building wealth for yourself and your family. So when is the right time is when you are ready.
And so looking at that, so let's just say someone looks at, they have the income and they think they want to buy, but they're not certain, um, because they may not want the maintenance, but they're looking at their income and they're being told, well, if you can pay $1,700 in rent, you can pay a mortgage. So what is something that, other than looking at the total financial picture, what is something that they may want to consider also to get off that ledge?
Okay. First, I believe in not allowing another person's opinion to persuade them to purchase a home or to stay renting. Again, you have got to stay with yourself. Whether I'm making enough to pay $1,700, it's all about when it's my time, my season, and it's time for myself. And so I encourage customers when they come in and they're like, my mom says it's time for me to buy a house. Okay, is your mom going to pay the note? Is your mom going to do the maintenance? Is your mom going to cut the yard? Even if you don't want maintenance and you decide to do condo style living, is your mom going to pay the HOA? Those are things that, it needs to be all about the buyer, not about somebody else's opinion. Because when the rubber meets the road and it's time to repay the debt, unless that person is actually going to make the payment, I would not allow them to influence me, period.
And that makes sense because like you just said, saying, my mom said it's time for me to buy a house. Well, and I got this good job, the good job, and I can buy this house. So I think that's really important. I wanted to, so when it comes to the mortgage rates, so how do the interest rates compare to the rental rates? And thinking about, I know every year the fair market rental rates are released every year. And so looking at those rental rates, how can we compare those to what the interest rate, how is it keeping up with the interest rates?
Okay. Now, I won't be able to answer how they're keeping up with the interest rate, but what I can tell you is within the last 3 to 4 years, rental rate percentages have increased at least up to 20%. Mortgage rates have only increased back to their normal. Anywhere we saw some 3s and 4s and 5s when we were in the pandemic, but now that we're out, we're back pre-pandemic. So we're back at our low 6s, high 6s, and sometimes we get up to 7, just depend. So we're back there, but we still haven't increased that much. So if you purchased a home right now and compared it to your rent, you're paying somebody else's mortgage, right? And that other person is getting all of the mortgage benefits. Like when you own a home, you get tax benefits. You can write off the interest if you itemize your tax returns. You are able to deduct the interest and the taxes and sometimes the insurance. Upgrades, repairs on your property may also be tax deductible. But renting is what? Nothing. They get no benefit for renting, period. So those are some things that, when they ask me about, oh, but the rate is this, the rates are normal. They're back to normal now. Now, unless you want another pandemic, we can get back down to the 2s or 3s probably if we have another pandemic. But I don't think any of us want to see another pandemic. Not at all. Not at all.
Right.
So,
And so look again, going back to the rental rates, and I thought I had the fair market rental rates for our area, but I don't have it in front of me. But I want to ask this question. So going back to the $1,700 rent amount, I know it all varies depending on the interest rate, but typically with a $1,700 mortgage payment, what amount of house can that cover?
you'll probably be around 220 to 235 if it is in the county. We've seen an increase in homeowners insurance, which is part of the mortgage payment as well. So you should be anywhere between 220 to 235.
And I think that's important for people to look at, when you saying that $1,700 can buy me a $200 or $220,000 house. You know, because a lot of times I think that's the missing link with it, not being able to see, well, I pay this much and I can pay that much. So thinking about home ownership and the benefits, what are the different types of loans, not just that are generally available, but what are some loan products that Cadence offers for first-time home buyers?
Okay. Well, some of our programs don't require you to be a first-time home buyer. We are running a specialized program at this time. It is based on your census tract where you currently reside, where you make application from. If that census tract is greater than 50% majority Black census tract or minority census tract, then you would be eligible for a 97% conventional loan, and we will gift you $7,500. That does not have to be repaid. It is a conventional loan, 97%, and you will have a reduced PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. It'll be a reduced premium, but you do have to be a first-time home buyer with that program. All of our other programs, which are some portfolio programs, 100% financing. One is called Right at Home. It is 100% financing. You qualify two ways. Either the property itself is in a low to moderate census tract, and when the property is in a low to moderate census tract, the income requirements for that product is waived. Outside of that, the income requirement is $63,630. But if your income is at $63,360, you can buy a house anywhere and get 100% financing, no PMI. That product is called Right at Home. The other product we have is called Emerging Community. Somebody got a hand up? I think that's Angela. Maybe she just has her hand in front of the thing. So Emerging Communities, it is for 100% financing as well. The income limit is $158,400, and it's applicant income only. Both of those programs can be partnered with City of Memphis when there are funds available, as well as the Shelby County. They cannot be partnered with the state bond issue programs. We also have some medical professional programs, which you could go up to 103% of the sales price as your loan amount, and they are for physicians only. Those are some of our little specials. We do have a professional program. If your income is $250,000 or higher and you have $50,000 worth of liquidable assets, you may also be able to get some special. Outside of that, we are running FHA, VA, conventional, USDA, regular products.
Okay. And I want to go back to the first loan that you mentioned, the 97% loan. So that's a 3% down payment, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you said the $7,000 credit. So that can be used for the down payment and closing costs?
Yes. Whatever the balance is. So if your down payment of 3% is not quite $7,500, you'll be able to use the remaining balance be applied toward closing. Plus, you get a $500 appraisal credit fee. But that's at closing. You'll still have to pay for the appraisal up front. We'll credit you back $500. So that's $8,000 right there.
Wow. So with that program, is it possible to not come out of pocket at all with that program?
If your seller will pay your closing costs and your down payment is covered by that $7,500, it is.
That's awesome.
It is.
That's awesome. Okay. And you said the medical professionals is only doctors, not nurses.
Correct. Now I do have $500 off at closing for first responders, policemen, firemen, nurse, RN, and as LPN, and school teachers.
And that's how much?
$500 off at closing. So just say if you get the 97%, you're eligible for that. So that's $8,000. Then I'm going to give you another $500. So that's $8,500 if you fit into that category for that loan.
Okay. Okay. And you kind of touched on this earlier. when you talking about going back to comparing renting and buying,
Mhm.
um, when you talked about the equity, other than the equity, what are some long-term benefits of buying, and what could be some long-term benefits of continuing to rent?
Well, when I look at renting, it's more flexible. It's not yours. If when your lease is up and there's a new place around the corner in another area, you just end your lease, pack up and get a new lease and move on to the next place. So it is a renting is a little bit more flexible. Okay. The other thing that is good with renting is that you have usually lower upfront costs. And I'm seeing now where landlords want a deposit, which is normally what? The rent,
Mhm.
an upfront first and last month. So that's your down payment right there. So on the average, just say, and I had my calculator up here, if we'll use 1,700 because that's kind of where we started with early. So if the rent is 1,700 and we have to put it up, deposit first and last month rent, okay, that's times three, that's $5,100. You can use that towards your closing. They can use towards your down payment. But we're talking about the benefits for rent. I'm gonna stay here for just a little bit. I just wanted to throw that in. And
Yeah.
then there's no response. Well, I hate to say no response. You have limited responsibility when you rent for the property. Now, if you get in there and you tear it up, you're not going to get your deposit back. And then if
Right.
it's more than what your deposit is, they could actually require additional money to repair the property. Okay. So those are
Right.
some things when I look at rent. And then sometimes, people just don't want to own. They don't want to be responsible. And it's okay if that's you. If you don't want to be responsible for a property and that's all you ever want is to rent, then that's a decision you need to make. But it's not going to be a long-term benefit financially or security wise.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now,
And
the benefits for home ownership.
yes.
Well, there are lots of benefits for homeownership. It is the one thing that most Americans dream of. We dream of a lot of things, but we dream of owning our own home. When we are little girls and little boys, when we go outside to play at our parents' house, that's one thing we talk about is when we get a house. My house gonna be like this. My yard gonna be like this. That's what we do. It is the American dream. And it is one dream that is obtainable if you work on it. A lot of times people dream dreams, they're never coming true because, they could be something wild. But home ownership, that dream is obtainable with the right person, the right goal, and the right focus. So that's one thing I love about home ownership. It is a dream that does get to come true. Home ownership, you get tax benefits. And I said this a little bit earlier. If you're an itemized, you get with your accountant. I'm not an accountant. Get with your accountant. You may be able to write off some of your itemize some of your taxes, and that may give you a little bit more refund back as well. You also, it brings stability. Children are more stable when their parents own the property that they live in. When they know that when I come home tonight, that's my mama's house, that's
Mhm.
mine, that's my daddy's. So we're more stable. The community does better. There seems to be less crime
Mhm.
rate in a neighborhood where there are majority homeowners versus renters, because now I have a vested interest in this property. I don't want to see my neighbors destroy it. And so that they are renting, and most of the time there's HOAs involved, which are homeowners associations, and they help us also monitor our neighborhoods. They help us monitor our neighborhoods. One of the other benefits is that the civil organizations, we get involved in our community when you own your home because you want it to do what? You want your area to do well. People go out. It said that people vote more. And so I
Yeah.
found that to be very interesting. When I do a lot of studies for home ownership, I'm like, they go vote? Yes, which is this thing. It's representing their area. They have a vested area that they want to make sure is well taken care of. Okay. And when I get ready to maybe buy another house, I may not have to come up with a bigger down payment because guess what? I've built wealth for the times that I've lived in that home. Sold the house, I'll be able to take the equity, the difference between what I owe the bank and the value and move toward another house. Then what if I decide I want to be an investor and I've earned just enough money to buy my new house and also say, I like to buy an investment property. All these things are possible when you own a home. But when you rent, when the lease is up, bye-bye. There's nothing for you to take with you. Nothing except your things with you. And that's it.
Yeah.
So those are some of the benefits that I like to point out is that it's mine. It is mine. If you want to go in there and paint the walls, zebras in red, purple, yellow, green with stripes, it's yours. Then you can get the decor any way you want to. So
Yeah.
yes, that's one of the things, that's for sure.
Okay. And so we can't talk about the pros, the benefits, without talking about the cons of both renting and buying. So can you walk us through that? The
I do have
cons.
a few reasons to stay renting. You just don't want to own. You don't want the responsibility. Because again, home ownership is a privilege. It's not a right. You've earned your way to get here. So if you decide I don't want the benefits of home ownership and I'm just going to stay with renting, then that's where you're going to have to stay if that's what you want. But the cons to me, in some of the statistics show that I can't control who lives next door to me. So if all night I hear little patty feeds running and all of these things because of the person who's actually attached to my bedroom wall. Maybe they have children. Maybe they just walk heavy. Those are some negatives. So when I pull up at night to my house, I've got a garage to go in. When you pull up to an apartment, a lot of times you got to find a parking place, walk around till you find your apartment, back to your apartment, and then go in. And then if you have a garage, then of course the cost will be a lot more on an apartment compared to a house because most of them come with a house. Also, the upfront fee, to me, that's just like, you're just wasting money. So when you finish, again, it's a waste of money if you don't want to own your own property. Now, owning your own property, some of the negatives, one, you did not buy property with a licensed practicing realtor. You did it for sale by owner. To me, that could be a negative with home ownership because then you didn't have anybody to help you with getting what? Home inspection. Because you didn't think about it. You didn't have anybody to help you to determine, is the value going to be here? How are the contracts written? Those Tennessee contracts, those are written for protection for the buyer and the seller. So if you walk in with a for sale by owner contract and you have signed it, you're held liable for that contract. The other thing about it is that you're just not ready. You bought a house and you knew your job was about to shut down and move to Thailand. You weren't ready. You were like, I can get a job in a couple of weeks. Those couple of weeks never came. So now you're faced with what? Foreclosure and having to what? Return to renting because you weren't ready. Also, you did not save any money outside of purchasing a home. It's one thing to use your money to purchase and get in the house, but you've got to be able to keep up the home. Again, I say all the time, one little drippy bathroom sink could ruin the entire bathroom if you never do anything about it. Because now it's dripping, and then it's dripping. Your water bill is going up. And then if it starts into the cabinet, now you got to buy a cabinet, which you could have bought a 10-cent washer. They probably cost 20 cents now, but you could have gotten it fixed. Now you don't have a maintenance person to call. You are your maintenance. But now we have no excuse for that because we have YouTube, IG, anything you put in, if there's something wrong or something that you're like, that's not normal. Let me see what they say about this. You can Google it, you can IG it, and they have somebody out there showing you step by step by step how to fix it, how to repair it.
That's awesome.
Cons for me is owning a home or buying a house that you cannot we qualify you
Mhm.
buying a house that you cannot afford. So
Mhm.
if you buy a house and your debt to income ratio is greater than 50%, and we use electronic underwriting, underwriting systems to approve the loan, and it will go over 50%. If you're a great package, you got great credit, limited debt, it'll let you go over 50%. But you have to go home and decide, can I really afford this house? I've had
Right.
people a couple of years ago, she bought a house, bought a big fat house. Nice house. Real nice, real nice. She got that first utility bill because there's more that comes with it than a house note. You got
Right.
utility bills. She got that utility bill, and then that utility bill didn't have everything encompassed. So she had a water bill and a gas bill. And I was saying, she said, hey, ma'am, I closed in September. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
8 months later, she said, I can't even buy ice cream. And I'm being serious. She could not even felt like she couldn't even afford to buy ice cream. And she still had a family. So
Yeah.
I suggest when the lender gets you qualified, you go home, look at that cost breakdown and decide, can I really afford to live here? That's when people don't count up the cost for home ownership, that it does become a negative of owning one quickly.
And you touched on something that I think is so critical for agents to understand, because if I think this is why having a pre-approval is so important, because if a person comes to an agent first and says, hey, can you show me these houses, and they don't have a pre-approval, so they already in their mind, they have their mind set on, I want this house, I want this type of house. And so then they come to you and say, hey, what do I qualify for? Yes, on paper, you may qualify them for that house, but without them knowing or having the expectation that, hey, my utility, I didn't think about my utility bill. I was in 1,000 square foot apartment, and this is a 2,500 square foot house. That's a difference. That's a whole MLGW about it's going to be a
Exactly.
whole different thing, right? And
Correct.
so I think that's something that we don't. I think that's for agents. I think we need to do a better job of helping people to understand that part of it when they're going from renting to buying. Say, hey, I, you need to go talk to Ruth first before we go out here and you get this in your head and count up the cost. So that just, I think that's really important to factor that in.
Now,
And
one
it
thing
was
I do, I'm sorry, one thing I do suggest, like when people come in that are going from buying to owning, I do recommend you can call MLG&W and say, I have written a contract at ABC Street. I'd like to know the average bill of ABC Street over the last 12 months. And they are able to give you that. They won't tell you who lived there and all that, but they can give you the average bill. So that's part of you building yourself out a budget, is to see, okay, so I can pay the note, but can I pay the utility bill? Because you got to have utilities on. Can I pay the
right.
utility bills? And can I still continue with the lifestyle that I like to live? Or do I need to reconsider this house?
And so you just told me something. That's something I did not know,
Oh,
that
yeah.
you could call MLG&W and ask for that. So
Mhm.
look, I needed that too.
Yeah, well,
I needed
good,
that
good.
too.
You can
Yeah.
also, if your customers have gotten on, have bought the house and they come back, ooh, the utility bill wearing me out. They can get what's on a budget with MLG&W where they average out the payment every month and it's just one straight payment. And so when you know, that's the benefit of home on home too. You already know what the payment is going to be unless taxes or insurance increase. So you can do the same thing with your MLG&W.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Great, great, great. Um, I'm looking at the chat. There's
Oh,
a couple of
I'm
questions.
sorry. Am I supposed to be paying attention to the chat too?
Oh, no, no, that's fine.
Okay.
I've got it. So, okay, yeah, Marilyn said no one wants to be house poor, and that's something that when I bought my first house, that was something that our lender said. She said, "I do not want y'all to be house poor,"
Right.
and I didn't understand what she meant. I was like, "Girl, what you talking about? You don't want us to be house poor? We got money. Like I got a guaranteed check on the first and the 15th every month. What do you mean?" But she went on to explain, the affordability, of the house based on, I mean, compared to all the things we just mentioned? Are you thinking about these other things? Are you still able to save on top of affording the mortgage? So,
That's
what
good.
do
Are you still able to have fun? And being house poor, people begin to hate where they live
yeah,
because they can't afford to live there. So
yeah,
they began to hate it. They hate going home because I gotta go in here and get in this place where I really can't afford. And it becomes really sad. And so, like I said, I had a lady like that a couple of years ago. She had not counted the cost up. And yeah, she downsized huge and made a big difference in her note. And now when I see her, she's just as happy because guess what? She's not house poor anymore. There's nothing worse for being, whether you're house poor, car poor, furniture poor, bad habits poor, it's nothing worse than being that. Because then all your thoughts is, I gotta pay for this car, I gotta pay for this house. So yes,
yeah.
that's good, Marilyn. Yes, nobody wants to be that.
So those are a lot of things to consider, and I'm just thinking about this as you're speaking. This again, going back to agents, how we can empower people when they are considering going from buying to renting. Give them, create this checklist of all these things that you're sharing that people don't typically consider when they want to. They're just looking at, oh well, if I pay $1,700 in rent, I can pay a $1,700 mortgage without counting up the cost of those other things. So I think that's really good too. Yeah, my wheels are turning, Ruth. My wheels are turning.
Good,
I'm gonna
good,
create a
good, good.
checklist. Yeah, I think that's really good. The next question is, will you explain to us the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification letter?
Okay, so with the pre-approval, it is probably worth it's not worth the paper that we send it out on. Now, let me explain why. The customer either applies online, or we do it by phone, or they come in to see us face to face. Okay. We have entered their information or they entered their own information. Um, Pulled credit. The credit is valid. That is true. The credit is the only thing in a pre-approval that is valid. So we get the credit, we get the credit report, we get the credit scores, we get the able to figure the debt to income ratio. But the debt to income ratio may not be correct because we have not validated any information. They have not provided any W-2s. They have, at this point, no pay stubs. We haven't done a verification of employment. And the big elephant, we haven't looked at their assets. Okay. That is the difference. When we move over to pre-qualification, those people have brought in their income, asset information, and we run DU with the pre-approval. But at that time in pre-qualification, we validated their information. They say by law, which is the CFPB, the Consumer Protection, I forget what they're called, all of their words, but the Consumer Protection Bureau anyway. So when
Yeah.
they got involved, y'all laughing at me, when they got involved, they said that we are to trust the customer. What they put in should be what is correct. So by law, when someone enters a pre-approval, I am required to issue them a pre-approval letter.
So even if they put in they make
Correct,
$80,000 and they make 60,000. Okay,
correct,
gotcha.
correct. That is by law. Now, what happens, we send them a pre-approval letter, but also in the email, we list out the documentation that they need to validate this. Most of the time that I'll ask the customer, would you like for me to share this information with your agent? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We got some houses to see. So I send it to you. And in my email, I'll say, this is the max they're able to qualify for. Please look at the list below and help me get this documentation before you write a contract. Okay? Because nothing is sadder to me. You took that house off the market with my name on it, and we get that W-2 and pay stub, and that 80,000 that they said they made is now 60, and they don't qualify for the contract that you just wrote, and now you got to backtrack. And so when you backtrack, the first thing they're going to say is, well, I thought you had a pre-approval letter from Cadence Bank. Yes, but the customer had not validated their information. So it's very important. That's why I say when most of the time, I would say probably 95% of the time, people reach for a realtor first. That's why it's so good that these classes are going on now with women, NAREB women, because now you're educating the other real estate agents. Get involved a little bit. I have agents who don't want to be involved at all. Do you your credit, your job, any of that part of that? Go to your and have these things together. So it's good if you know 2, 2, and 2. Last 2-year work history. Where did you work for the last 2 years? Okay. Last 2 bank statements. Let's look at those bank statements. Do we have overdrafts? Do we have strange large deposits, cash, or regular deposits? That's another thing we look at. Overdrafts. Do we have non-reported credit items that are coming out of that check every month, that checking or savings account every month? My favorite is Affirm and Afterpay. Fancy words for layaway, but they are credit debts. Those are debts. It's not like the layaway at TJ Maxx. You can go pay on it. You're still paying on it, but now if you don't pay, it's a debt. It's a debt to you. At TJ Maxx, they just put your stuff back and you come back and get your little deposit back. Sometimes they don't do that anymore. They don't have layaways anymore. So Afterpay, Affirm, there's one other, Clarion. I see all of these all the time. And my favorite thing on a bank statement is 3 letters, IRS. How they forget that they're paying the IRS back a debt and they have an agreement with them, I'll never know. But people forget about it all the time. They don't think about it as being a monthly debt. It is an obligation and they want their money. And so those are a couple things that show up in the bank statement. So it's important we get bank statements back very quickly so we can get those validated. And then we like to look at, so W-2s, pay stubs, bank statements. I want to look, if you said you made $80,000 last year and $20,000 came from overtime. When I look at your pay stub year to date, I want to see you still getting overtime. I just had a gentleman, he made a lot of money last year, but this year we back down to that base pay because he hasn't made very much money in his overtime. And so I won't be able to use the overtime. Also, if you're working, you have the ability to work 40 hours, but well, I'm going home, I'm tired today. So you have variable hours. And so that could hinder you too. But the customer put in that they work 40 hours because 40 hours are available. So it's important that we get those documentation as soon as possible. Also, when people owe child support, and you notice I didn't say men, both male and female, both pay child support. When they owe child support, whether it is a current order or an arrearage, we need to know. We need to know and know quickly because I want to see what's coming out of that pay stub outside of taxes, Social Security, benefits. I want to see what else is coming out of it. So that is the difference. A pre-approval, you just pulled your credit and it all looked good. A pre-qualification, you have made application, your credit is pulled, and the customer has provided their income and asset information. And if they're from a foreign place, they need to make sure that their permanent residence card is active. Yeah.
Okay. So what percentage do you typically do a if a person asks for a pre-qualification up front, or what is the percentage of people asking for that up front as opposed to just a pre-approval?
Most people don't know the difference.
Okay.
They don't know the difference. So they think when they apply that they're getting a pre-qualification letter. It's just a pre-approval letter until they validate their information. So that's why it's important that when we send the pre-approval letter to you, some agents reply back, have you gotten this documentation? And I can reply back honestly, no, can you help me before you write a contract? Because in my email, we can only suggest that you provide this information. We cannot require it. CFPB says that we cannot require it to become a full application. It does not become a full application until we have a contract. So now we got a house off the market, got a listing agent happy, a seller happy because they think they're about to buy another house.
Right.
And I got my buyer's agent happy because everybody think we about to get paycheck day. And then we get documentation and it's a no-go.
Right.
Period. So we have to look at it.
So it sounds like agents, we need to do a little bit more in encouraging our clients in submitting their paperwork so they know for certain that without a shadow of a doubt, this is what you can buy based on the documentation that you submitted, not just on by what you said.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, there is another question. How much would you say a client needs to have saved up before even thinking about coming to you as a safety net? Okay. So Rendell asks, how much do you think a person needs to have saved up before they even begin the process of buying a house and thinking they're going to get all the down payment assistance, all the closing cost help? What is a good ballpark number that people should have saved on their own?
Okay, well, I'm gonna throw this out just so we have a really sharp, great package. Good income, great credit, great debt to income ratio. We are really good, period. Okay, there are some upfront costs when it comes to home ownership. One, earnest money. Minimum requirement, most of the time, 500 or what is it, 1% of the price. So what price range so are you buying in? I just had somebody that bought a $200,000 house. They had to put up $2,000. So they need to be prepared for earnest money. The next thing they need to be prepared for is what? Home inspection. And they range anywhere from 250 up. So now just say we do the 2,000, we're at $2,200 saved up. But if the price of the house is lower, it could be lower. But then we got to get ready to come get the mortgage. I need an appraisal. That cost is $650. Plus I still recommend, not requirement of us, but we're in the South. We got bugs. Get a termite inspection. They need to get a termite, and it's not required. FHA doesn't require it. Conventional doesn't require it. The only VA still does, but the only other time it's required is when the appraisal says, "I think we better look out for these termites over here." I'm not sure what this rotten wood is, but that's the only time it's required. But I still recommend that we get one just for our customer. So those are a few things that you need up front right off the bat. Now, you might need, if you're a little weaker in credit, you may need some reserves to turn the DU. It loves money. So if you can get a little bit more money and you're on the edge, anywhere from 2 to 3 months reserves of the principal, interest, and taxes and insurance, you're fine. It should be there. So how much was that? About $3,000 on a $200,000 house and higher? You're gonna need at least that much saved up. And even though you get down payment assistance, everything I just said is upfront fees.
Right, right. And I think that's something that people don't think about. There's like, well, I'm getting down payment assistance, but you still
Right.
have to pay because the home inspector not gonna wait till the closing table to get his money. He not.
Not at all.
They
He
not
wants his money up front.
gonna
And the same thing for the appraisal. We will not move forward till you pay that appraisal up front. And now I've been in a little while. So before we would allow you to pay it in the back end. But however, because people decide, like that, we've already paid, but we're obligated to pay that appraiser. And so what happened then is that we got holding the bag. Lenders got holding the bag of an appraisal fee. So you start adding those up over time, that becomes a whole lot. So yeah.
Right, right. So put the responsibility on the responsible person.
Correct,
Got
correct.
it. Okay, so another question. Can you give specific examples for debt to income ratio, the front end and back end?
Okay.
Well,
So,
first tell us what debt to income ratio is and then give the
okay.
front end and back end.
It's just that how much debt you have versus to your income. We look at two debt to income ratios, okay? The housing ratio by itself, just how much is your mortgage going to be? And then the back end ratio is the house note and all reoccurring debt that you have. Debt, car notes, student loans, child support, IRS, credit cards, installment loans, all of those things, we look at that. That's your back end ratio. So what we do is we take your gross income, and I'll just use some DPA numbers. We take 33% of your gross income, and this is for City of Memphis. So if they earn $3,000, 33% of that is $990. That says that your house note and all other reoccurring debt cannot exceed $990 if you earn $3,000 a month. Okay? So that's at 33%. The back end ratio, which is your house note and all other reoccurring debt. So it's usually about 45 on it is 45.000 on the city of Memphis. So we'll take $3,000 and multiply it by 45%. That gives you $1,350, right?
Okay.
Now, what we want to do is take that $1,350. The first thing I do is subtract the house note of $990 from it, and that should give you $360. So all of your monthly debt, if you earn $3,000 a month and you want to buy a house that costs $990 a month, your monthly debt cannot exceed $360, period. That's if you want to get down payment assistance. You can get a back end ratio. We can go up to 50, depending on how strong the file is, 50, 55. I've done a 56 before, and be able to move forward with it. But we'll just use 45 for time's sake.
And that's only with City of Memphis.
THDA does not have a front end ratio. Okay. So the front end could be 45 of 1350, and the back end could be the same.
Okay.
Shelby County does not have a front end ratio. It only has the back end ratio. The same thing. 45% for both of those. So all three of the local programs is 45%. Mississippi Home Corporation, theirs is 50%.
Okay. So if you got, like you said, you're making $3,000 a month, if your car note is over $360, and you're already towing the line if you have credit cards, student loans, and all the other things. So, okay.
That's why it's good to count up the costs before you jump in the boat.
Right.
Good to get yourself prepared, eliminate, not close credit, but eliminate debt. Reach out. There are online. Fannie Mae has an online home buyer workshop where you can go through and get a certificate at the end. The local CDCs offer it too, and you can put yourself up on a budget and kind of see where you are. There are forms that in their book that help you get to your debt to income ratio by completing them. Yeah.
You just said a word that's a curse word to many people.
Yeah, that B word.
The B word. Yes, ma'am, the B word.
Yes, B word for me too.
Yes. Okay, we have a question from Facebook.
Okay.
I love this question.
Oh.
I love this question. It was actually something I was thinking about too. So the question is, can you speak about, for first-time home buyers buying duplex or multiplex, or the strategies to live smaller, live in a smaller place, and basically house hacking. So if a first-time home buyer is buying a duplex, they live on one side and rent the other. Can you speak to that, and how that can be a way into home ownership?
Absolutely. That's a smart homeowner. Okay. It's a smart one. First of all, you're going to live in one side and rent out the other side. So now you have income. All of the programs will allow you to do a duplex. However, they use market rent for the other side that you're not living in. But you're going to buy the duplex as a primary residence, so your down payment is not elevated as if you were going to buy a 3-plex or a 4-plex. It is still the same amount. So your down payment is the same.
So when buying like that, can you count the income of the other property as your income? Is that possible?
Not with FHA, you can't.
Okay.
can't. Not with any of the programs because it's new. So unless now there's you got me on this one. There's a if the property's already rented on that one side, you might be able to count it for income, but I would not count on it. It's going to be dependent on the loan type and the reason for it. But if you're getting down payment assistance for the program, they're counting it. And if the income that they're receiving for that property is even lower than what's the income for the area, the rental income, then you have to count the higher of the two.
And so that's if the other side is already occupied, correct?
Correct. Mhm.
Okay. But if it's vacant, then you can't.
Correct.
Okay. So have you seen that where people are buying duplexes and multiplexes as first time home buyers?
Long time ago, I used to see that and see it a lot, but I have not seen it any at all recently. Not at all.
Okay. Um, we have two. So I hope that answered your question, Rashida. She's online, so
Okay, Rashida.
hopefully um, yeah, because I think that is like you said, that's a smart way
Mhm.
to buy. I actually, and I'm just gonna say a family member um, was wanting to purchase, a property, and her the amount she qualified for was I want to say it was about 125. And I was trying to, I was talking to her about doing this very thing with the duplex because there was a
Mhm.
duplex that was like $98,000. She was like, "Oh, I don't want to live in that neighborhood." And I was trying to get her to understand that it's you don't have to live there forever. It's an entryway. It's the entrance
Correct.
into home ownership
Correct.
because somebody was living on one side of the duplex and one side was vacant. So I thought it would have been a good, but she wasn't trying to hear that. So
Now I did
um,
look this up though, really quick. On conventional loans on a duplex, it's 5%. FHA, it could be 3.5%. So I want to make that correction really correct.
okay, so for a first time home buyer,
Yes,
conventional, they can do
5
5% on a duplex.
on a duplex.
Duplex or up to four, or is it just a duplex?
Duplex. You
Okay.
want to know
And
what the
then,
fourplex is? Now the fourplex on both of them are going to be different.
okay.
Let me do a fourplex.
So while you're doing that, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So for a duplex, it's going to be conventional 5% down payment and
Mm-hmm.
FHA
Mm-hmm.
duplex 3% down payment. Okay.
Correct. Now it says it's 25%. On all our conventional products, duplex or whatever, it's 25% down. Because when you
Okay.
get to a fourplex, unless you're going to occupy one side, you're still going to have to pay 25% down on it.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
And yes, people used to do this a lot, but it's still a good option. It's still a really good option to buy a duplex and earn. When you buy a property as your primary residence and you don't use a down payment assistance program, the word is used, it's your intent to occupy the property as your primary residence. FHA wants you to occupy the property in 60 days from the day you close. Okay. So are they subject to to come by and check? Yeah, they are subject to, but do they happen? Probably randomly. Fannie Mae or FHA may do a check. I haven't seen one in years, but it is one of the things that they talk about is that you bought the property as your primary residence, but you never occupied it. But the word is
Okay.
intent. Yes.
Okay. And I want Marilyn, I know there are a couple other questions before this one, but I want to address what Marilyn said. She said, why buy where you won't live? Um, to I'm going to say this and then I'll ask Ruth to speak to it as well. My rationale for getting her to purchase the duplex was to just get her into home ownership. I told her she could stay there a year, 2 years if she does FHA. FHA is 2 years,
One.
1 year. Okay, but I told her to stay there. I think I told her to stay there 2 years, and then after that she can use that property as income and buy the house that she really wants. But again, she couldn't see that vision. So that was my reason for suggesting that to her, Marilyn. So I hope I answered that question. Can you speak to that, Ruth?
Yeah, I wanted to say the 2 year that you're thinking about is for capital gains. Most people talk about, you have to live there at least. If you live there for 2 years as your primary residence and you sell it, you may not have to pay capital gains. And the word is
Okay.
may not. I'm not an accountant. I'll say that again. Okay, so why I have mixed opinions, and this is my own personal opinion.
Okay.
I wouldn't buy where I wouldn't want to live, period.
Mhm.
I wouldn't. But if it was a stepping stone, we got to start somewhere. So just say
Right.
rent is out of control like it is, and I decide I want to buy in that neighborhood is where it's going to get me. For now, I may go ahead and buy as long as I've got a garage, a security system to get me in and out, but I also have a plan to eliminate debt while I'm paying, where I can grow in my wealth because the area, we all see that values have increased to see that they have increased. So I've got a plan, and that would be the reason why I would do it, because I've got a plan to get out. I want to be here 2 years flat, save my money, eliminate my debt. I'm going to sell the property, or I'm going to lease it out, and now I'm going to count it as income and move on.
And that was
It
my
would be
thinking.
temporary for me.
Yeah, and that was my thinking. 2 years, then you rent out the other one, go buy your dream house, and use this as income to shore up the income that you have. So that was my rationale, but she wasn't going for it. So okay, we have, let's see, talked about that question. Okay, can you talk about the impact of student loans when going applying for a mortgage?
Okay. Student loans, they're no longer an elephant in the room because they have a great solution to them. Okay. Let's talk about loan type. On a conventional loan, 1% of the outstanding balance is your monthly payment, unless you are on an income-based repayment plan. Okay.
Mhm.
If you are actively in school, they have deferment, or you've gotten in trouble if you got a forbearance with it. But even while you're actively in school, you can put them in an income-based repayment plan and not have to count that 1% on a conventional loan. Okay. FHA says if you have half of 1% of the outstanding balance, or if you're in an income-based repayment plan and the payment is greater than $1. When you're making your deal, you got to be greater than $1. Okay. Then you don't have to count that half of the 1%. VA says when I pull your credit report and it says that you're in deferment at least 12 months from the first payment due date. So if we close in April, first due would be June 1st. So long as your repayment on that student loan was not due until July 2025, you're going to be just fine.
Hmm. And that's
So,
with the deferred.
yes, with VA.
Okay.
Outside of
Okay.
that, VA is the same as FHA. So
Okay.
if I pull a VA application today and they have student loans and they say, oh, Miss Ruth, they're in deferment till 2020, 2030. I'll be like, okay, so let's get all this paperwork over to the credit bureau, go in there and do those, and let's wait and see when they update it, and then let's come back again. Because
Okay.
it has to be on the credit report when the credit report is pulled. A supplement
Gotcha.
cannot be done on VA.
Okay. Okay. And then what if the deferment or the income based the income based deferment, whatever I see something, whatever that one is. What if the
Income-based
payment,
repayment plan.
yes, what if it's zero?
If
Then
it's
what percent?
zero, on a conventional loan, you're fine. It's
Okay,
FHA. If it's FHA and it's zero, no, you're going to be half of the 1%.
half of the 1%. Okay, gotcha. Okay, let's see. Another question. Does the VA have loans that help people fix up properties to live in, like the FHA 203K?
If they do, Ms. Thompson, I am not aware of it,
Okay.
period. I'm not aware. Not saying that they don't, but I can look that up, but I don't think they have any type of rehab loan,
Okay.
like the
So can you
203K.
can you speak to us about the FHA 203K loan? Because something that really bothers me, and I've been saying for the longest time, I'm going to scream this all over social media, but I haven't done it yet. When I see in the MLS, this won't go FHA. And immediately I think about the 203K loan. That's the first thing I think about. So I'm like, they're not telling the truth because it can go FHA 203K. So can you talk to us about the FHA 203K loan?
Well, Cadence does not do 203K loan. So I'm going to be limited what I talk about, okay?
Okay.
I've done them a long time ago with another lender. It is normally based on what has the property. You may buy a property that needs lots and lots of repairs greater than $5,000. It has to be greater than $5,000. And then they go and get the repairs. That's about all I remember on it, Kay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Shanita. That's all I remember is that the repairs have to be greater than $5,000. We offer some rehab loans where it is based on the improved value, but they are conventional loans. They are
Okay.
conventional.
So with the loans that are specific to Cadence, you said they're based on the after repair value.
Correct.
So the loan is based on the after repair value.
The appraisal too, he'll tell us what the existing value with the property in the state that it's in, and then you provide your improvement desires or requests of what it's going to look like. The appraiser is able to say, well, yes, that'll fit in this neighborhood, and it should comp out here with these upgrades and changes. And we go with
Okay.
that as far as market value.
Now, do those repairs have to be completed prior to closing, or can they be done after closing?
If they are not health and safety, they can be done after closing with the rehab loan. Now, we still do a few repair escrows like on the FHA if they're less than $5,000, but they cannot be health and safety. Like heat of the summer, it can't be paint because it had been raining. So your seller
Right.
needs to go ahead and get the house repaired, go ahead and get it painted, but it won't be things of that nature. I've had a few things done, but most of the time the repairs are done prior to closing. People don't want to leave their money in escrow because what they do is they collect 1.5 times of the cost to cure
Yeah, and that
and
can
the
be.
final inspection. So that's held by the bank at closing
Mhm.
from the proceeds.
And that can be messy because I had a
Mhm.
situation like that in the end of 2022. We closed the week before Christmas, and oh my gosh, it was messy, and
Yeah.
it took them so long. It took so long. So I would never ever do a post repair closing. I would never do that again, ever, ever, ever. So that was
Yeah,
too
I did
messy
one
for
of
me.
those, and the gentleman who did it, he went on vacation. You remember we got that ice storm at Christmas
Yes,
Eve?
yes.
Yeah, he was gone on vacation. His pipes burst. Yeah.
Oh
The
my
house was
God.
already in a repair escrow, and then the pipes burst, and then people, I guess they started noticing that, hey, ain't nobody here. This, the water running. So they helped themselves to his
Wow.
appliances and stuff that were there. So yeah, it ended up
Oh
being
my
a mess.
gosh.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
my last
nightmare.
repair escrow. So now I'm like, you want to just wait another day and go ahead and
Right.
get the repairs done so we don't have to get that mess done. So yeah,
Right. Yeah, just push this closing date back, and
correct.
I know you want to be home for Christmas, but look,
Hmm.
let's not go through this headache.
Right.
Okay, we have two more questions. Okay.
Okay.
If you started with one lender, hmm, this is interesting. Okay, if a person starts with one lender, but the underwriter is giving you a hard time, are you able to switch lenders?
You
Now,
are.
I have a question, Tabitha. Can you tell us, not without going into specifics, what do you mean by a hard time? But go ahead, Ruth.
Okay. So that was one thing. I am a guideline reading, applying person, loan officer, period. So I would recommend that you go back to your loan officer before you move the file. And then like some of these guidelines are online, you may be able to get in, or if you have a relationship with another lender, reach out to them and get the specific thing. What's stopping her? What's stopping him from approving the loan and it's gotten there? What's the hiccup? Because if you move it from one lender to another lender and it's the same thing and it is a guideline that the underwriter is absolutely correct and your loan officer may not know or have gotten lost in it, because we do have a financial interest in getting a mortgage closed. So if that happens as well. So I would find out exactly what they need and then reach out to another lender to say, hey, does FHA do this, this, and this? And then mortgage companies or lenders may have some overlays. A lot of them don't, but a lot of them do have overlays.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, can you clarify for us who is considered a first-time home buyer?
Anyone who has not owned a property as their primary residence in the last 3 years, has to be 36 months exactly, period.
Okay.
So if grandma left me a house and I never lived in that house as my primary residence, I am still a first-time home buyer and I should be still eligible for down payment assistance with THDA. Okay. However, the city of Memphis says, you own that property. It's yours. So you own other real estate. So that's
so
one
whether
of the
you
things.
lived in it or not, a city of Memphis,
Correct.
you're not a first time. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Go back to Tabitha's question. She said the underwriter is asking for things that don't really make sense. But she said she'll check the guidelines. Okay. So thank you, Ruth, for that. Okay. Next question. Can you speak on financing challenges for the self-employed, and what are some things they need to know when applying for a loan?
I want to step back, one little step back for
Okay.
Tabitha.
Okay.
Tabitha, if that loan type is FHA, you can email FHA yourself and ask the question, but you need to know the exact question to ask them, because they're just another person too answering off of that, but they should be able to send you a clip of the guideline out of there answering it back, because it's public information.
That's
okay,
awesome.
Self-employed. File your taxes properly. That's all I can say. File your taxes properly. A lot of times when people are self-employed, they want to expense all of their income away. So what? They don't have to pay Uncle Sam. And that's okay. But when you get ready to buy a house, Uncle Sam is still involved in it. So now you told me you made $300,000 and you want to buy a $400,000 house, and I get all excited. But when I get your tax returns, it's $20,000. That's all you claimed to the IRS was 20. It's not going to happen. There are some bank statement loans out there that you can do bank statements. I think it's so many deposits in 12 months that you can do. So those are available for self-employed. And that's the biggest thing I see is that, we need a 2-year tax. You need to be in the business for 2 tax calendar years first. Okay. Sometimes if you pull the program, depending on the program, it may only ask for 12 months, but there is no guarantee that it's only going to ask for 12 months. So that's why we recommend 2 years into being self-employed. But those are the challenges, is having to file that income correctly. I just had somebody who, on her application, she was a physician. And so I'm like, I got everybody's income but hers. And I kept saying, something ain't right. Yeah. So everybody on the application but hers. And the agent was like, Ruth, you don't want to give pre-approval? My gut kept saying, something ain't right. Something ain't right. I said, now I can give it to you, but I don't feel like I'm going to be able to guarantee this one. So when she finally sent her income information, she was self-employed. I said, ma'am, those are 1099s, not W-2s. She said, but I work for the hospital. I understand. But you're receiving a 1099. And so you're self-employed. And when you receive a 1099, you have to file that income. And she was like, whoa, I'm going to owe the IRS this much. Yes, ma'am. So
Wow.
she pulled out of the application. So she didn't want to owe the
Wow.
IRS. So you're either going to pay Uncle Sam one way or the other, or you're going to continue to rent. So you might as well go ahead and file your taxes correctly for 2 years.
And I think
And
that,
claim income.
yeah, and I think that's something, and I'm about to go on a tangent for about 10 seconds. Dealing with or working with contractors who say, well, I don't have a W-9 to give you, just pay me cash. No, let's not do that because I mean, I understand you don't want to pay taxes, but you need to pay taxes. So, okay,
Right.
I'm back.
Right.
I'm back off my tangent.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. I think that is all the questions in the chat. Let me check on Facebook. Um, no, I think that's all on Facebook. So what I gathered from this conversation is there are definitely benefits to renting depending on who you are and your long-term goals. And there are also benefits to buying and cons to both, just depending on what your long-term goal is. And I appreciate you, Ruth, for
Thank you.
keeping it real with us and
Oh,
saying, hey,
yeah.
if you're not ready, if you don't have it, don't run out there and get yourself hurt and be house poor because
Right. Right.
because there are a lot of things to consider. And I think as I said, you gave me some ideas of how to better prepare buyers prepare my clients when they come to me and say, hey, I'm ready to buy a house because my just looking in the MLS what rental rates are, $1,800, $2,300. It's crazy. So, but really just not just having them look at their rent payment, but looking at all of the things that the lifestyle that they live. So definitely a lot to consider. But I don't think we can beat that stability that comes with home ownership.
Mhm.
I think that's a for me that outweighs all of the other things. So and I think it's best to prepare yourself for that by some of the things you said, saving, making sure you save and prepare yourself and count up the cost. So do you have any final words for us, Ruth?
Well, COVID is over. We're back out. We're back outside now. I
Yes, ma'am.
would like to see, yeah, more consultations. When COVID took us away from it, agents, you just met the phone, not a lot of consultation. You didn't have an opportunity to bring them into your office or even sit them down. I'd like to see a little, I've gone back to those, bringing them in, consultation, making sure they understand the process, making sure that they understand, I need you to stay connected to this email. I need you to pay attention to the text messages that I'm sending you. And I need you to act quickly because the process goes quick. My goal is to get you to the table in time. Your agent's goal is to get you to the table on time. And, we don't want to lose a house because there's not very many out there. And so once you get a contract, you got to be there and get on top of it. But I would like to see more consultations done with real estate agents, with the buyer. And that'll also help us as a lender be able to get the documentation up front. Because now you're like, you need to get this paperwork over to Ruth, and there's all sorts of apps, and people can download their pay stubs. ADP, probably 75 to 80% of the people in the city, that's how they're paid. Those come over as PDFs. You're able to upload those. So that helps out a whole lot too. So that's what I'd like. I'm excited about homeownership. I always have been. I see there's one message in here. It says pride. Yes, I have a lot of pride in my being a homeowner. I do. And I have seen it come over to many, many people for many lives. And one of my favorite is Miss Shirley Myers. We did a little girl's mortgage, and Miss Myers sold her a house. She came to application with her pajamas on and had not washed her face. And I was saying to myself, is this how you go to work? Anyway, Miss Myers met with her. We got her approved. And the next time I saw her, she was well dressed and had finished college 2 years later and was buying another house. So pride, yes. Integrity, yes. It makes
Wow.
you get up and do better for yourself. So yeah, I'll never
Wow.
forget it. Yep. But that's
That
all.
is awesome.
Thank
That's
y'all so
awesome.
much for having me. I love homeownership, if you can tell like this.
Yeah. And you first of all, that's awesome testimony. You know, she came in one way and went out,
Yes.
and it transformed her life. That is amazing. It
Yes.
transformed the way she saw herself. That's amazing. And
Yes.
I want to ask you a question. You said you want to see more consultations. So is that because the idea that I got, because my, stuff be running through my head, Ruth, it be running through my head. So when you talk about consultations, I know we often do home buyer workshops, right?
Correct.
But I'm wondering though, when you said consultation, so if I have two people that are ready to purchase a home, are you open to having a consultation with myself and the two buyers in that capacity?
Oh, absolutely.
That
One-on-ones.
way,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
that
Yes,
way they
ma'am.
can
Yes,
get
ma'am.
everything in one. They don't have
Mhm.
to go to do it two different things. Okay, okay. I
Yeah,
like that. I
absolutely.
like that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll make an appointment, sit them down and go over it. They don't have to, well, sometimes they end up talking about their personal sales, but they don't have to because it can be very general, like it is like now. It's general. It's just general information, period.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you learned something to not, for yourself and even for to share with someone else. We try our very best at the Women's Council of NAREB Memphis to bring you information and workshops and just the education that you need to become a homeowner or investor or whatever it is to help you achieve your real estate goals. I will turn it back over to our president, Madam Dr. Stephanie Myers Lewis. Do you have any final anything to close us out with,
Yes,
Madam
thank
President?
you all so much. This was some awesome information, Miss Ruth Phillips. We appreciate you so much. We appreciate your advocacy, your passion, and everything about you that is just total advocate for home ownership. So we appreciate you. Thank you, moderator. First VP Shanita, awesome job. I love it. I'm thankful for everybody else. I'm Madam Governor Kate Thompson, for everybody that has joined. I could call all you all's name. I think I would do Pastor Marilyn Smith, Miss Latanya Moore, Miss Denisha Clark, Mark Bell, Madam Angela Majors, our part of our board, Madam Katrina Graham, our chaplain, Miss Rebecca Taylor, Miss Tamika Williams. Hey, y'all. But thank you all so much. Now, I want to invite you all to our 5K Stomp the Yard for Democracy in Housing 5K walk on April the 27th. And we're doing it in the Whitehaven Community Center. We'll have gifts, prizes. We'll be just collaborating and networking together. We'll have some local council people. I don't know if we're going to have Mayor Young or not, but we have some local council people. And we have some great news that we're going to tell you all about when you all come to the 5K. So you have to come to the 5K walk to get that great news, that big news. But thank you all again. So I'm in the 60 age group. So I don't know who is in the 60 age group with me, but I'm probably going to beat y'all in the 5K. I just want to put that out there. So y'all better get
And
ready.
she is telling the truth.
Get
She is
ready, get ready, get
she
ready. Now
was, she
y'all make
was
me get
number
out
one
and
last
practice
year.
this thing. But again,
Yes.
thank you all so much. Have a blessed, awesome evening, and we'll see y'all April the 27th. Go to wcnmemphis.com or follow us on Facebook and sign up. We'll love y'all. Oh, and can you tell, Madam VP, can you tell them the person that we're actually sponsoring?
Yes, yes. So this year, our 5K, we have partnered with ESU Scholars. It is a nonprofit organization. They have a threefold vision, but aspect that we're focusing on this year is they focus on helping middle school and high school students expose them to different careers, prepare them for college or a trade or the career field, the job market. So we partnered with them last year. They do this thing called career speed dating, where the students come in and they talk to different professionals from different industries and learn about, they're just exposed to different career types, that some that require college degrees, some that do not. So we've partnered with them. So a portion of the proceeds from the 5K will go to benefit those students as well. This year, the registration, single registration is $45. Team registration is 5 or more on your team, and it's $40 per person for 5 or more on the team. And like I said, we're a portion of those proceeds will go to ESU scholars. I wish I had the flyer to share it, but it's on our Facebook page, it's on our website, and you can register there. And yeah, we're just excited. We're excited.
Get excited. And we'll be posting some more. We'll be posting some more. So y'all have a good night. Y'all got out early. It was supposed to be 2 hours. Guess what? It was what, 1 hour, 20 minutes? Have a good
Yep.
night.
Thank
Bye.
y'all. Good night.
Good night. Thanks a lot.